Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Next Up podcast. As always, I'm excited to be back with you to share with you something that's going to be encouraging, enlightening, edutaining, and empowering. Again, we all need those four E's. All right. And I've got somebody who's with me today to help share down the lines of these four E's. He was a member of my church while my wife and I were there in North Carolina for a number of years. None other than Maurice Edwards, great guy in his own rights. Maurice, how are you doing?
Doing great, doing great. I'm super excited about being up here.
Oh,
I've been keeping up with everything you've been doing and all the guests you've been bringing on, and I called you and I was like, you know what, I got some questions, I got some ideas. Let's see what we can do.
uh-huh. Well, just putting my phone on mute there. But yeah, man, I'm glad that we have kept the connections over the years, though my wife and I transitioned here to Georgia and you're still there in North Carolina.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been connected now for over 15 years.
15 years. I graduated '08, and I think it was graduated in June and came to the church in July, I think. So
Okay.
yeah,
So it's been
of
about
2008.
2008, 17 years then.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, that's a long time to keep connectivity. And we've been talking basically every month, several times a week sometimes. And it's just a pleasure, man. I'm just glad to see your evolution.
Oh yeah, I
One,
appreciate it. You too.
one thing that stays in mind about you that got me concerning you while I was pastoring, my wife and I were pastoring, and that was there was a prophetess that came
Yeah,
through and gave a very strong prophecy.
yeah,
And you held on to it, man. I mean,
yeah.
those were some strong words that she gave you that you could have either stayed in the church or left, stayed with God or left, and you chose to stay with God. And man, I'm excited to see that over now 18 years.
18. Yeah.
You know,
Um, I funny thing is, I actually watched that video. Maybe last week, about 2 weeks ago, maybe.
really,
Yeah, yeah. I said I gotta hold on to this because it was just so mind blowing. I didn't because I always believed in God. But we do our thing when we're young
sure.
and we don't really understand or know, God really. We just know what we hear from people.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and but I just had a feeling he was real. And my prayer before I actually came to the church was, if you're real, show me that you're real. I mean, it's probably the prayer of everybody else, that people that want to know if God is real, because we're always seeking for something, right?
Yeah.
And long and behold, I didn't think I was gonna get a word like that, and I was scared. Honestly, I think I stayed in the room for about 2 days. I mean, about a day. About a day. I
Oh,
didn't want to come out.
oh
Um,
man.
because I didn't want to take the chance, and then so
Yeah.
I lost some friends. I lost some friendships, but
Mhm.
I'm glad they're doing good though.
But the spiritual stability that I have noticed in you over the years, and you all, these were hard words that he got through that prophecy. And you just heard his expression about it, but he held on to the hard words. And I'm telling you, I've watched his evolution, and he's got stability in his life as a result of holding on to something hard. It reminds me, Maurice, I got something hard from the Lord when I was 12.
Mm,
I,
12. Wow.
I was 12 years of age and I had a dream or a vision. And in that dream or vision, I saw God on my right hand and the devil on my left. And God was speaking to me and said to me at 12 years of age, choose which one of us you're going to serve.
Wow. At 12. That's a hard choice. At 12.
That was hard at 12. He challenged
Wow.
me and I understood him. And he said, and I saw the devil in the form that God allowed me to see him in that dream or vision. And it was clearly who God was and who the devil was. Because God gives us imagery based off of our ability to conceive it. So I saw God on the right hand in a certain form, the devil on the left hand, and the Lord clearly said to me in that dream or vision, which one of us are you going to serve? You can't have both of us.
So was it distorted like people make imagery out of, or he was, like they say in the Bible, angel of light. Like if you're an angel of light, you're not gonna dress, you're not gonna be bummy looking. You're gonna look have a certain way about you.
Yeah. Well, you mean the devil or God or both?
I mean both. I mean I was talking about the devil, but you know how that we make these imageries of how the devil is distorted and all this other stuff, but he comes to you. I mean, where God showed you probably a different image that people see or have painted over the time.
Yeah. Well, here's what here's what I remember. He came to me in a form that I could understand based
Okay.
off stuff that I had heard about the devil, with the pitchfork and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
the pitchfork. Yeah.
So I saw this image of this dude with the pitchfork on my left, and this imagery of Jesus according to imagery that I had seen in the past about Jesus.
Okay.
Now nowadays he may approach me in a different form, but he knew what I understood, and so he approached me in that form. So yeah, the devil was like a dude that was there laughing, smiling. He was just like,
Okay.
and God was, in the image of Jesus that we have seen on pictures, with the pleasant but serious look. And,
Okay.
but that was my hard saying. As a 12-year-old, I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about something today that you brought up in conversation,
Yeah.
and making a decision is one of those things about preserving life. So if you give it to us the way you gave it to me, so my listening audience will see how this conversation today got started. So
Sure. Sure. I was just thinking, I said there's a lot of, people dying health wise, people getting killed.
mm,
Um before they I just believe before their time. I mean, do they really have to die? You know, some of the kids, some of them are kids. They're not even grown. They're not even maturing into a certain age. They're young adults or teenagers or anything like that. And I guess the biggest thing that came to me is like, how do we have longevity in life? Um, yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, what can we do to prolong our lives versus, I know we can't control circumstances. Driving down the highway, somebody on their phone texts and then you get hit. But there has to be something that we can do.
yeah, I like that. Yeah, and there are things that we can do, and it's really unfortunate when we see 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds, particularly at the younger ages in life, whether it's 30 years of age, 45 years of age. I don't believe that God intended us for life to be cut off short like that. Maurice, we see a lot of that even in the rap industry world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
A lot of rappers are killing. A lot of rappers talk that talk, and then the gang members end up killing them when they're with their family or eating lunch or something.
yeah, like the guy, I think out in California, somewhat tall guy, in his 20s, became well known, but just there's a lot of them, of course. But the bottom line is whether it's in the rapping industry or some other industry or just in life in general, to see people dying at such young ages. And I want to further our conversation by saying something that I had read some years ago.
Okay.
What it basically said. This is the first generation where parents are burying their children on
Hmm.
a larger scale than in the history past. Where,
Oh, what do you mean?
yeah, where we got more parents burying their children.
Oh,
And
burying. I'm sorry.
yeah, burying their children. And I think that statement was probably made from the health angle of what's
Okay.
going on as far as health is concerned, that we're in a generation to where more parents are burying their children than in prior generations.
You would think it'd be the opposite. The
Exactly.
children burying the parents because they're of old age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be definitely a great discussion. So you all
Yeah.
were here talking about how can we preserve life? How can we live that longer life that God has promised? So that's our discussion today. So Maureen, let's go with the first question that you got of this folks.
Okay. First question is what are some things that we can do for longevity?
Okay, well, I think we need to go to the wisdom side first,
Okay.
and talk about wisdom. The Bible talks a lot about wisdom and what wisdom will do for you. There's one scripture that comes to mind there in Proverbs chapter 3, verse, I think it's verse 16. It says, length of days, talking about wisdom, length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor.
Hmm.
So if we're going to have length of days, we've got to link up with wisdom. We got to pursue wisdom because according to that scripture, length of days or longevity is in her right hand.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That makes sense.
I think if we're gonna, we got to be wise. For years now, I've been married to my girlfriend now. You know her.
Oh yeah.
42 years, going on 43 years.
43. Wow.
Yeah, going on for this year, by the goodness of God, November the 19th will make 43 years, Maurice. And it seems like 3 to 5 years have gone by.
Wow. Time is moving.
Man,
Oh,
I am telling you, it's almost like unbelievable that we've been together going on 43 years.
wow.
But
So I had a chance. I have what 2 decades, almost 2 decades to
yeah, that's
experience y'all being together.
yeah, because you were there for about 2 decades,
Yeah,
watching
about 2 decades. Yeah.
out pastoring and so forth. But earlier on in my marriage, because I didn't know any different, and of course, life is all about growing in wisdom, growing in knowledge and understanding. I used to think, as far as marriage was concerned, that it's love that would keep two people together. Well, I found out that that is not the case. I found out the thing that promotes longevity, that helps
Mhm.
people together, is this thing of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Sometimes I like to say knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Because any and everything that's going to be built has to be built off of knowledge, getting knowledge about that arena or that area, understanding, which is the proper arrangement of facts. So knowledge is facts. Understanding is the proper arrangement of those facts. And
Yeah.
then wisdom is the proper utilization of that knowledge.
Right. So you gotta have the know-how and be able to put the action behind it.
There you go. Come on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So when it comes down to longevity, I've got to learn some stuff.
So with that being said, what do you think? We go to school for our careers and stuff like that. We got knowledge, but like like shouldn't we have more healthier people or more people living longer? So, like I guess we're not applying it,
Yeah,
or
over.
we might not have the revelation of what you're saying. I don't know. What do you think?
No, you're bringing out some good stuff. I see where you're leading. Yeah, we go to school, but it's apparent that we didn't learn everything we needed to learn in school.
Right, that's true.
And then there's some things that we did learn. We may have to add something else to it because in school, when it comes down to food, then in school teaches a lot of good stuff. Don't get me wrong. And all of the education, I see it as something to help bring out the best in us,
Right.
so that we can be the better version of ourselves. We can do better in life, do more in life, be more productive, and be able to contribute to our community, our society.
Mhm.
So I think that when it comes down to the schooling, we have to realize I didn't learn everything there was to learn in school. And there are some things I really needed to learn in the first institution that the school is to add to. And of course, I see the first institution as the family. And what the family teaches experientially about relationship, connectivity, constant contact, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schooling is good, but I think we need to realize that all of life is education, and I've got to stay in the mode of continually learning.
I have nothing against the education, the people that have degrees and stuff but that makes a lot of sense that having connectivity with other people that experience things in life and being able to share that. But it seems like sometimes us as young people, we don't even want to listen to the older people. We think we know it all.
Yeah, and see, that's where it gets really sticky right there. You're so
Yeah.
true. I'll never forget in my younger years, and God has his way of getting things over to you, but for some reason I wanted to, I don't know where I got it from or what phase in life that I got it. I wanted to hang out with the older folks.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody dropped it in the waters of my thoughts or whatever, to where if you're gonna be wise, you got to stick around the older folks, because the
Yeah.
people your age knows no more than what you know at that age.
Yeah.
But you're so correct. There's been more, it looks like, of a disconnect between the young and the old over the last X amount of years. And
Yeah.
we've got to close that gap. We
Yeah.
got we got to close that gap and keep the communication going between the generations. You know,
Man, that goes into the next question, really, because
and let me
like the company you keep,
go back
like,
to that one, Maurice, to emphasize something, and I
yeah,
want you to bring that next question
yeah.
about keeping the gap closed or keeping the connection with the older and the younger generation. Like before getting on this podcast, there are some things that you taught me, you
Oh,
know,
oh, yeah, true.
about the Zoom. So
Yeah.
this is not a one-way street to where the younger are to only learn from the older. Man, there are things that the older needs to learn from the younger. It seems like in your generation, you guys came out of the womb knowing technology. you know, we older folks, we're working to still catch up to where you all were at a very young age. Man, you got children that's not even in double digits that can run circles around me as far as technology is concerned.
It sounds like the world would be a better place if we could both get together, young and old, and well, I'll say older, um, to make things work, to
Yeah,
things make things work together for both of our benefits.
yeah. And that's the way really God set life up, is so that we would receive from one generation to the next. One generation pours into the next generation. That's Psalms 78. But yeah, we got to nowadays close that gap. And I think one of the things that's caused the gap is this thing right here.
Oh yeah, they closed the gap. The phone, yeah, everything's on the phone now.
Yeah, people look at the amount of time that people spend on their cell phone versus in family conversations.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
know,
true. They probably don't have dinner at the table like they used to.
yeah, come on.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when it when they are having, a lot of times, a lot of families, this is on while the dinner is going on.
yeah, yeah.
You
So
know,
somebody told, so I was we was having a Sunday dinner or something, and my grandma invited everybody over, and they was talking about life insurance, I heard them. They was talking so loud that I heard them from the other room, and it was like, well, some families um tell their kids about life insurance instead of the parents dying, and then they have this burden of having to bury their parents.
mm,
And then at the same time certain families tell them about life insurance policies where they take out policies because eventually that person is sick or something like that and they die, and they pass down wealth through the life insurance policy, and then that changes a generation. But sometimes that information, I think we're abreast of it to it now, but
mm,
it seems like some of that information wasn't passed down like it's supposed to be, or maybe they didn't know.
yeah, yeah. In some
Can't
cases,
pass down what you don't know.
yeah, that's true. In some cases, people didn't do it because they didn't know to do it.
Yeah,
And then in other cases, like you were sharing, where was that family time so we could pass on this valuable information
yeah,
that will help sustain and promote the next generation, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, but you had another question that you want to.
It just segues into what you were saying about like people, like your connectivity, like the company that you keep. How important is that for preserving your life?
Oh man, that's a big one right there. It reminds me of, I think it's First Corinthians chapter 13, around verse 33. The Bible talks about good company. Bad company will corrupt good ethics, good behaviors. Good companies help promote it. So I think that's extremely important. I also heard this years ago. Show me who you hang out with, and I'll show you your future.
Yeah,
And that makes sense. This is why you see football players hanging out with football players. You can just
well,
about determine that person, wherever they are in Pee Wee League or Little League or high school, college, or whatever, you can determine that person's future by who they hang out with. So basketball players hang out with basketball players. They're not, unless it's just some basic stuff, they don't get their influences on football from a basketball player and vice versa.
That's true.
There are certain principles of life that apply to every field of discipline, but yet show me your associations and I'll show you where you're headed. And no doubt your future.
And I personal experience, I had to take somebody to court. Never been to court before. Never want to go.
Sure.
It's one place I'll never go.
Gotcha.
Unless you gotta handle some other stuff. But so I took the person to court and I said, you know what, I'm gonna just sit in there and watch. And I noticed that after they did a recess, I noticed that the judges click up with the lawyers click up with the DA. It's like this whole connectivity
Yeah.
of people. And you don't see them hanging out with random people, but they're going out places together. I mean it's a big clique or a big unit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I guess that would be successful.
that's extremely important, this thing of who you hang out with and longevity, because you look at people hanging out with folks who are in alcohol and drugs and look at the end result of their lives. Many lives are cut short because of drug usage.
Yeah.
Nowadays, particularly what this fentanyl that they dropped into our
I think
society.
that's the new thing now.
Yeah. Look how being in connection with the wrong one, getting a drug like that is cutting a life short.
And I think that's the drug that you got to have a hazmat suit on
Wow.
to make it. I could be wrong. But I was overhearing the conversation and they said something like you gotta have a hazmat suit on, and the chemicals to produce it are so strong that you can't stay there.
Man.
You can't like live in the same house. You gotta let it air out and everything.
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty
Well,
deadly stuff.
yeah, from what we've been hearing about it, just a very tiny piece of it can cost a person their lives or is costing people their lives.
Mm.
But there again is who people have been hanging out with on many occasions that got them connected to fentanyl or cocaine or heroin or what have you, that has caused people's lives to be cut short.
So are we subject to a person's influence, or can we fight back a person's influence? Where they don't influence us to do those things that we hang around those type of people, or it's bound to happen
Well,
eventually.
that's a great question right there too. I mean, we're taught this stuff usually
Mm.
in the family environment, who to hang out with, but we understand what's happened as far as the family is concerned. But yeah, we don't have to let that happen to
Right.
where peer pressure gets to us. I can remember in my earlier years, and somewhere down the line, I don't know who I got it from or what episode in my life I got it, but I was just determined that peer pressure is not going to dominate me.
Right.
You're not going to push me around like that.
Right.
I'm my own man.
Yeah.
You don't like me. You don't want me in your gang, so to speak. And I don't like that right to this day. I don't like ecclesiastical, religious peer
Right.
pressure, political peer pressure, none of that stuff. But it does influence people. It depends
So a
on what
person has to make their mind up.
the person has to make their mind up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the bottom line right there, to say, no, no, the buck stops here. You're not going to control my life. If you don't want me in your clan, so to speak, then I just won't be in there. But that is a big one right there, because that pressure gets to the average person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just kids. It's because we talked about it. I know we talked about it in school, peer pressure and stuff like that. But it's the adults that deal with peer pressure. Maybe the boss, or maybe the boss don't have the right attentions to a certain employee or something like that. They peer pressure that person. It's like I guess you gotta be able to have the wisdom, like you were speaking about earlier, to know the difference and know what to do in that those situations, right?
Yeah. And you got to develop that internal fortitude that
Yeah,
says, no, I'm not going to bow to your persuasion, particularly if that persuasion is something that's going to lead me in the wrong direction,
right.
to where it could lead me down a path to where you end up in jail, you end up sick, end up in the wrong crowd. And then how many times have people been shot, killed because they were in the wrong place
At the wrong time.
at the wrong time? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
that's
uh,
true.
we have to be supportive of one another in helping people take a stand and withstanding the pressures that come from peers. Because it's not just younger folks. Man,
Yeah,
I listen to guys play professional ball talking the same thing. Get to a certain level, get into the pros, and all of a sudden now all these varying temptations come at you. And you have to make a decision that, well, I'm not going to let my money, my influence, and your persuasions lead me in the wrong direction. So it's not something that's relegated. Preachers go through it, parents go through it, people in business go through it, people in political parties go through it. Look at the battles that's been in our country, even in the last election.
yeah, true.
So am I
We
gonna
got so many. I know I got so many text messages about voting.
gotcha? Yeah,
Then
yeah,
peer pressure. I mean, that's basically a form of peer pressure, trying to get you to go to the. I mean, is it such thing as good peer pressure? Because everybody needs to vote.
yeah. I think there is the persuasion of those that really care enough about our evolution
Yeah,
to, somewhat pushingly persuade us to do right or desiring to influence us to make the right decision.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's all going to go right back to who's in my company, who's in my clan. Are they advising to help promote my purpose, to help me be more progressive in life? Because there is that side, like you were asking, is there positive peer pressure? Yeah. And you see that when you look at even basketball games, football games, play
mhm.
went bad, they get back in the huddle and they're pressuring one another. Come on, man. That was not the play you were supposed to have run.
Right. Yeah. I've heard that before.
So that's positive in nature. So there is that positive side, particularly when you are a part of a team and you got to do your job. And the quarterback chews that lineman out for not blocking,
Yeah,
or wide receiver from running for the fact that he ran the wrong play or the
yeah,
pattern. So
it's true.
yeah, there is that positive side that is very important too.
I remember running down the field off kickoff, and I was determined to hit this guy that caught the ball,
Uh-huh.
and he did a move on me, and he was so fast on his feet, he moved, and I missed him. And I got on the sideline. The coach said he walked up to me and said, "I guess you're not hitting nobody today."
What?
And it made me so hot that I said, the next time I get on the field,
Uh-huh.
I'm running them over.
Come on now. Come on. What position did you play?
I did kickoff. I did wide receiver,
Oh, okay.
and I did defensive end a couple of times, but it was mainly receiver.
Receiver. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, our coach used to tell us, hit somebody. He
Yeah,
would tell us the same thing your coach was telling you, but in a different form because sometimes we were not hitting.
yeah,
And he would come and grab that helmet and pull us up to him.
yeah,
Hey, man, hit somebody. You know, Football is a contact sport.
yeah. Hit somebody. Yeah,
But life is a contact sport too,
yeah.
because we're going to come into contact with things that could offset or promote or
Hmm.
hinder our
Hmm.
progression in life. So life is a contact sport. We're in contact with evils. We're in contact with people oftentimes that don't mean us the best and so forth.
So I mean that's good. So we're gonna take some hits in life.
Yeah,
So we gotta have a good foundation.
yeah.
We
That
gotta be.
mhm.
I know I was saying we gotta have a good foundation. I mean, what you think about that? How building? What do we build our foundation on?
Oh man, that is another great one right there for longevity, for preserving our lives. We got to build ourselves on a strong foundation. hopefully, or the way it was designed, we were designed to get foundation from the family. All right.
Okay.
So the foundation that I believe we need to build on is the foundation of the truth of our Creator.
Okay.
Because everything in life that was created by somebody, it really functions off of the foundation of the wisdom that the designer or the creator gave. If I
Mhm.
if I'm driving a Ford car, then the Ford manufacturer has the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding of the truths as to how that vehicle is supposed to work. The problem is when I take my Ford over to a motorcycle dealer,
Mhm.
expecting, expecting my Ford car to run off the wisdom of the motorcycle industry. It wasn't designed to do that because
Uh,
the motorcycle creators didn't design the Ford car. I
yeah.
have to take it to the Ford dealer. So when it comes down to life, I believe that the greatest foundation for life comes from the one who designed it.
Yeah. That's true.
And so a scripture for that is Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 through 27. One of my favorite scriptures that deal with foundational talk. And then
Mhm.
the Bible talks about two people who went out to build a house. And the whole talk in those three verses is all about foundation. It says
Mhm.
that one guy built his house on the sand, and the other guy built his house on the rock. Well, what is the
Wow.
rock? The rock is truth coming from the wisdom of the one who created life. And this
Mhm.
is where I have issues, Maurice, with some of
Mhm.
the stuff that is taught in school that we came from a tadpole or we came from a monkey. Well, if I came from a tadpole, if I came from a monkey or a gorilla, I need to go get the manual from that monkey, tadpole, or gorilla about how life is to work.
So you be swimming in the water and you be swimming in the water and then climbing on trees and stuff.
Come on, I'm
Yeah.
telling you. But my point in saying that is the one who designed a product usually produces a manual as to how that product is to run.
Yeah, that's true.
And so when it comes down to life, who created life? Because who created life in the wisdom of our world has to produce a manual as to how to sustain, promote, preserve life.
Mhm.
So this is why I laugh at it and I make that kind of comment that if the monkey created me, then the monkey needs to give me the manual.
Yeah.
Because every vehicle I've ever purchased comes with a manual showing me that either the BMW company or the Ford company or the Cadillac company or the
Mhm.
Mercedes-Benz company, every manufacturer always gives a manual,
That's true.
you know. And so when it comes down to life, if the tadpole created me, then somebody needs to get in contact with the tadpole and tell the tadpole,
Home.
what was
So
that?
you need to phone home.
Need to phone home, come on now and give me the instruction manual, you know. So
So with the cell phones nowadays, everybody they have a smartphone, and one of the complaints that I get from older people is they don't have an instruction book from the manufacturer, and so they get the smartphone, and they don't know how to use it. And I say, I wish this thing would have an instruction book, how to operate it, and just going to your point, how important it is to go back to the manual to see how does this work. Um, how do I do a three-way call on the smartphone, or how do I text somebody a picture?
uh-huh.
Because sometimes they don't have nobody around to show them or teach them, so they can always go back to that book. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're saying that some of them don't come with a manual?
Uh, excuse me. So the newer phones, Samsung or whatever, they don't come with manuals. Now you can go on the internet and look it up, but not in the box
Oh,
when you purchase.
wow.
Yeah, so a person that never had a smartphone, they're completely lost.
Gotcha. Well, you know, because you work in the cellular industry.
Excuse me.
You work in that space, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's my space. Yeah.
Wow. So nowadays, instead of being in the box, you have to what, go to the internet, you said?
Yep. Or you can go on the website and download the manual. Hold on one second. I got a little cough on my.
Sure. Why is that, Maurice, that they're not coming with the manuals?
Because there's so much information. It's so much information. I mean, a manual can have 100, maybe 200 pages. Maybe that's over exaggerating, but it can have so many pages on it in it, and they don't want to print those pages for people that don't need a manual.
Oh, I see.
Because they, like you said, like you feel like we was birthed with the technology when I mean, you give a kid, a small child, an iPad, and they know how to watch what video they want to watch, and
Uh-huh.
they don't want to watch this, they can swipe.
Man. Yeah, I'm amazed when I look at these 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Man, they could teach a class
Yeah,
on. But either way, then for the older generation or for whoever is not in the know, you got to go and either go to YouTube or social media sites or what have you and get instructions
yeah. Get instructions for somebody, yeah, true, and keep them right.
and keep those
Yeah,
instructions. And that leads to another major factor for longevity, and that is getting instructions to
yeah.
preserve life. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 13, I believe it says, get instruction, keep her. Don't let her go because she's your life.
Wow,
That's the
wow,
value that our Creator has put on instructions. Get it? Keep her. Don't let her go. Promote her because she is your life.
wow. Wow. What you know, how you understand it, and how you apply it is your whole life.
Is your whole life. There it is.
Wow,
What you know,
wow.
how you apply it, there it is right there. Those are three major things for longevity right there. Now in Proverbs 23:23, here's the emphasis that was put on instruction and wisdom, and I think knowledge as well. Here's
Mm,
what Solomon said in that verse: buy the truth and don't sell it. And then he went
wow,
on to say instruction, wisdom, and one other thing. He says, buy it. In other words, the emphasis has got to be I'm willing to pay for it because it's just that valuable. But he did say in that scripture wisdom, instruction, and one or two other things because they're your life. So when it comes down to instructions, man, have because you can have a good thing. You
mm-hmm.
can take good vitamins and minerals, but if you don't follow the instructions, something that is good could end up harming you.
So you, I remember I remember the gummy vitamins. They say if you take too many, your stomach will start cramping.
Uh-huh. Yep.
You have to go to, you have to call and they say if it's if the issue persists, call your local doctor.
Yep.
It could have been prevented, but I guess those gummies were too good the taste
Yep.
was too good. You just kept
Yep.
eating them like candy,
Yep. Right
or
on.
didn't read the instructions.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna find that scripture. Here it is. Here's what it says there, Proverbs 23. Let me see, 23, maybe it's 27. Give me one second. I really want to read that one. Let me see. Yeah, here it is, Proverbs 23:23. And here's the emphasis. He says, buy the truth and don't sell it. So we talked about wisdom being a factor for longevity. We've talked about
The company you keep.
the company you keep, and now we're talking about instructions. Buy
Right.
the truth and don't sell it. Also, wisdom, instructions, and understanding. There it is.
Wow. There it is.
Instruction and understanding. He said these are guys that you got to show such a value for them that you're willing to pay for them.
Wow.
Buy the truth, buy instruction and understanding, and don't sell them. I don't care how much money they offer you for instructions. Don't sell instructions. And going back to Proverbs 4:13, because it's your life.
So spending $100 on books shouldn't be no issue
Shouldn't be an issue. Come on now.
to be able to preserve your life
Uh-huh.
or advance your life.
Mm-hmm. And so when you look at the instructions oftentimes that we can get out of books, or the instructions that we can get from coaches, or the instructions that we can get from professors and teachers, we see how valuable instruction is.
I think excuse me, I think it's around Proverbs 2 or 3. It might be a chapter 1 where it says he said wisdom is in the streets. Wisdom is basically saying that if you look, you can see wisdom all around. You
Yeah.
don't even sometimes you don't even have to read it. It's like um what's a good example? The birds are flying. The birds, you don't see as many birds in the wintertime. That I mean, before the wintertime comes, that's saying that it's about to get cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so many different signs and stuff that it's basically screaming at you.
Yeah.
It's like I guess you gotta have the eye to see it.
Yeah. You're talking about Proverbs chapter 8, and you're so correct. Yeah, Proverbs chapter 8. I'm going to pull that one up too, because that's one of my favorite chapters as well. And I'll quote a little bit of what you're talking about right there. He says, now, doesn't wisdom cry, or isn't wisdom raising its voice and understanding putting forth her voice? She stands in the top of high places, in the way, in the places of the paths. In other words, whichever direction you're going in life, wisdom is there, like waving his hand. Hey, hey, talk to me before you go that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you get into that particular thing. If you're going to become a business owner, hey, I'm here to talk to you. If you're going to get married, hey, listen to me. Let me have a session with you. If you're
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
to, if you're going
So
to,
counsel.
go ahead.
No, no, I was saying so you need some counsel.
There you go. There it is.
Wisdom and counsel.
Yeah, because counsel works with wisdom. So wisdom is like, hey, we need to talk before you decide to get into it. Now, of course, I've been in this marriage, in our marriage, going on 43 years, but we taught marriages, oh man, after the third year of marriage, because we were assigned to do that from God.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of relationships have a great kickoff
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately a bad ending. And somewhere down the line, understanding, wisdom, and instructions slipped away.
Right.
I believe, Maurice, is wisdom, understanding, and instructions that preserve the heat in the home of the marriage,
Mm.
the heat or the love, the passion for one another.
Yeah.
Listening to wisdom, instructions, and understanding about the mates,
Mm-hmm.
partners in that relationship. My point is, Solomon showed us that everything is built off of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and of course, instructions too. Everything, whether it's a marriage, a family, a
Mm-hmm.
build, a vehicle, a rocket, whatever it is
Good on
that's
wisdom.
going to be built, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding has got to be there for that. You notice one thing, these bridges, that what, 2, 3 miles long or however many miles long, they built those bridges off of wisdom. Well, first of all, knowledge. They
Yeah.
had knowledge about the equipment, the the stuff that they would build the bridge with. They had to have knowledge about it and wisdom as to how to properly construct that bridge. Because if not, I, for one, and I'm saying the same thing I'm sure about you, would not want to be walking or even driving on something that we were not assured was stable.
It's like those bridges you used to see in the movies, that swing in the jungle.
Yeah, yeah.
One of those bridges it doesn't even look safe, but that's the only way we can get across. But like, what do we do?
Come on, so true.
Um, so a person they have to attain the knowledge to get the understanding of what they learned and then apply the wisdom. But with all that, like, do we have like an issue making decisions with all the information we gathered over the years or
Well, once we have gathered information, and it
Right.
starts from the time that we come out of the womb and start looking at dad and mom, we start
Mm-hmm.
putting in information at the level where we can deal with it, as a young child. And as we keep growing and staying beside dad and mom in this case, and of course, as we evolve, staying in connection with the teacher or the professor
Mm-hmm.
or the coach, that's extremely important. But these people are here in our world
Mm-hmm.
to help advise us on how to utilize the knowledge that we're gaining
Mm-hmm.
so we can make the right decision. Because the day is going to come that that baby, that young child,
Mm-hmm.
that teenager is going to evolve out of the house, and hopefully they've gained enough knowledge, enough understanding,
Mm-hmm.
enough wisdom to help them go to the next level in life
Mm-hmm.
where they are going to be responsible for their decisions versus dad and mom.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why the dad and the mom, the teachers and the professors and the coaches, because see, after that coach or those coaches on that team have taken that ball player through training, it's up to that player when he or she hits the court of play, or in
Mm-hmm.
football, most of the field of play, it's up to
Mm-hmm.
that individual to make the right decision.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But they've been given the knowledge, the training, the information, because see, the coach can't play the ball game for that running back.
No.
The
Well,
coach can't make the coach can't make the decision on the field for that quarterback. This is why he takes him through all the training that he can, so that when the quarterback is facing a blitz, you
mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? He can call the right play or make the right move to help the ball or the team move upfield. So going back to what you were mentioning, yeah, we need the knowledge, the understanding, the wisdom, the counsel, and the coaching of those
Mm-hmm.
who care for us and want us to move forward in life. We need that from them, because once we hit the quarter play or the field of play of life, they can't make those decisions for us.
We in the game now, coach.
We're in the game now, coach. We're,
Yeah, we in the game.
we're in the marriage now, dad, mom, uncles, aunts. We're in it ourselves. And we may see something because when it comes down to marriage now, because every relationship is unique within itself, we may
Mm-hmm.
see something that maybe dad didn't tell us, because maybe dad didn't see that out of his relationship with mom.
That's true.
And so we give the best example, we give the best information that we could gain in hopes that our offspring will make the best decision. Because the decisions in life, oh my God, determine longevity. How many stories have we heard of somebody when it comes down to marriage? And we got about another 3 minutes left, actually. This is just part one, you all. We're going to come back
Part one.
to part
This is really good.
This is really good.
This is really good. I'm glad we're having this conversation, and
Yeah,
a lot of nuggets to take home.
sure, sure. So how many times have we seen people make a decision and get in the wrong relationship, and it throws their purpose, their expression, their destiny off course? I was talking with someone just recently, and they're not even married yet. And this lady, they're not planning on getting married until 2 years. But what we're seeing already is that this guy has such a stronghold on his supposed fiance where she can't even make her own decision. They're not even married. I'm like, what is it going to be like? He's
When you
not,
get
when they get married. He's not married to her, and
when
he's
you're already
over
controlling.
controlling already. Oh my God, it's like, what is it going to be like when they say I do? So going back to decisions, gaining the information, uh, staying in contact with those that are supportive so we can make the right decision. Because other than the decision to make Jesus the Lord and Savior of our lives,
Mhm.
second greatest decision in life, I believe, is the decision that people spend their lives with as far as a mate is concerned. because we've seen a lot of, unfortunately, disastrous stories, some that ended in death, some that ended in relationships for 20, 30 years to where they were basically just tolerating one another. There was no happiness in it, but it all came, Maurice, from a decision.
I mean, I guess that's a, I don't know, that subject right there is probably going to be a whole part two.
Yeah, just that alone.
But wow, that's because I know I have questions.
Got
Um, um, wow, I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have to pick up here on our part two because this is a big one. I was talking to my wife,
Yeah,
telling her that you and I were getting ready to do this show. She said, well, honey, anytime you talk about health and relationships, those are always hot items.
yeah, true. It's
Because you
true.
think about it, Maurice, think about it. What is in monetary terms costing society the most?
Health and relationships.
Health and relationships. We spend $4.7 trillion on healthcare just in the United States alone.
Wow.
Then on the other side, talking about relationships, how much does one divorce cost a community? How much does one divorce add to our taxes? So this thing of health
Wow.
and relationships are two things that we can't talk too much about because when we put them again in monetary terms, they're costing society very heavily. So, man, well, Maurice, thank you, man, for coming on and being a guest on
Appreciate you.
Next Up podcast. I want to encourage everybody listening to make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Next Up podcast. And those that are interested in consultations or seminars, webinars, you can reach me by going to ellisonsconsulting.com, ellisonsconsulting.com. And you can reach me there, or my email address is dr.calellison, dr.CALELLISON@gmail.com. And reach out to me there, whether it be for consultations, seminars, or even products like my books and my CMOS, which is a favorite thing of mine, Maurice. You can reach me at either one of those spots right there. Maurice, do you have any closing words, closing thoughts?
Um, um, just if this podcast was inspirational to you, just share it, like it, share it with your family members. Maybe that can help them. Because sometimes I kind of feel like you don't know what other people are going through. It
Yeah,
might be a silent killer. So they might need this might be the way to get the answers they're looking for.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for being on, being my guest, and I'm looking forward to
Appreciate you.
part two. We'll get it scheduled for part two, so we can further this conversation on how to preserve and promote the greatest thing that's been given to the universe, and that's a human life. Well, God
Yes.
bless you, everybody. We'll see you next time on Next Up. God bless.